Hello students, welcome to this third session on cultural diversity and cultural differences, an extract from Dr. Homi K. Bhabha's essay Commitment to Theory, which was first published in a journal New Formations and later this essay got placed in his celebrated book The Location of Culture. So let's continue with the analysis of this particular extract which is prescribed for your syllabus. But first we'll recapitulate what we have done so far. Students, Bhabha is known as a leading voice in post-colonial studies with his concepts like cultural difference, hybridity, mimicry, ambivalence, and third space. And in the previous session, we had discussed that Bhabha has emphasized on the need to re-evaluate the way we look at the identity of culture in post-colonial world. And to be more specific, I would like to say that there is an emphasis on the need to rethink the traditional notions of cultural identity and specifically the relationship between the cultures of the colonizer and the colonized, which have informed the process of decolonization. And Bhabha has just opened up his discussion with drawing a distinction between the two concepts, cultural diversity and cultural difference. And he has just stressed the need to talk about the enunciation of cultural difference. So where this enunciation of cultural difference can take place, Bhabha talks about a special zone, a special place, a special space of in-betweenness, and that is called third space. And moreover, in this space, Bhabha looks for the reconfiguration of the relationship between the two cultures in the post-colonial setting, because as you are familiar that in the colonial setting the relationship between the dominant culture and the other, the culture of the colonizer and the culture of the colonized, there was an oppositional relationship. But to reconsider, reframe and reconfigure this oppositional relationship, Bhabha emphasizes the need for a zone, as I have mentioned earlier, a third space, and what he wants to discuss, why he just wants this particular zone or place, because in this zone it would be possible to reframe this very relationship, reconfigure this very relationship, and this reconfiguration will help to transcend the historical antagonism which is there in the relationship between the former colonizer and colonized nations. And moreover, in this zone, Bhabha observes that the other should not be perceived as a force to be submissive. So, Bhabha has explained in detail in this extract his concept of third space as an appropriate space to reconfigure the relationship between the dominant culture and the other. Students, this theory of third space is actually a sociolinguist theory of identity and community realized through language. It suggests that every person is a hybrid of their unique set of affinities, and by exploring this hybridity, this third space attempts to transcend, or we can say this third space provides an atmosphere or a setting to transcend, to change, to go beyond the politics of polarity, the politics of dominance and subjugation, the politics of the oppositional relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. This third space reconstitutes ourselves, and our relationship with others. The point is that the third space provides a setting to reconfigure or reconstitute the relationship between self and other. And it creates a zone where the conditions and locations of social and cultural exclusion have their reflection in symbolic conditions and locations of cultural exchange. And Bhabha opines that this very cultural exchange happens in a site of ambivalence. Students, this term ambivalence is also closely related with Bhabha's theory of third space. So let's first try to have an understanding what this ambivalence is. Students, this concept of ambivalence was first used in the field of psychoanalysis to denote the persistent state of a simultaneous attraction toward and repulsion from an object, person, or an action. We can say that it indicates a sort of love-hate relationship. And Bhabha uses the concept of ambivalence to complicate and destabilize the authoritative aspect of colonial disposition. Because the colonized subject is not simply opposed to the colonizer. And so we can say the ambivalence does not suggest that some colonized subjects are complicit in their subjugation while others resist the colonizer. And in fact, we can say that ambivalence proposes that complicity and resistance exist in a fluctuating relation within the colonial subject. So in this way, this ambivalence refers to the way in colonial discourse affects the colonized subject. It can be both exploitative and cultivating, or it can posit itself as a form of exploitation and cultivation simultaneously. So thus, this process or this state of ambivalence challenges the authority of colonial supremacy because it disturbs the simple one-to-one relationship between colonizer and colonized, that is of the being dominant and being subjugated. So it just challenges this very notion. And Bhabha looks at the third space as a site of ambivalence, as a reference to an ambivalent process. And he feels that the intervention of the third space makes the structure of meaning and reference an ambivalent process. And this third space challenges our sense of the historical identity of culture as a homogenizing and unifying force. And moreover, this third space constitutes the discursive condition of enunciation that ensures that meaning and symbols of culture have no primordial unity or fixity. Means the cultural symbols are dynamic, they are not static. And even the same sign can be appropriated, translated, rehistoricized, and read anew. And Bhabha posits hybridity as such a form of liminal or in-between space, which he terms the third space. And this concept of hybridity is a characteristic of a culture or a cultural form produced by the interaction of two or possibly more separate parent cultures or forms. Or to be more precise in terms of the post-colonial interpretation of the concept of hybridity, hybridity emerges as a consequence of interaction between people in colonial and post-colonial context zones. For Bhabha, hybridity is the process by which the colonial governing authority undertakes to translate the identity of the colonized, the other, within a singular universal framework, but then fails, producing something familiar but new. So Bhabha contends that a new hybrid identity or subject position emerges from the interweaving of the elements of the colonizer and the colonized, challenging the validity and authenticity of any essentialist cultural identity. So in this way we can say that this association of hybridity disrupts the authority, and this very association of hybridity to disrupt authority was first outlined by Mikhail Bakhtin. And as far as Bhabha's concept is concerned, Bhabha has positioned hybridity as an antidote to essentialism, or to be more specific, we can say in post-colonial discourse, the notion that any culture or identity is pure or essential is disputable. And Bhabha himself is aware of the dangers of fixity of identities within binary colonial thinking. So he just talks about, or we can say he gives a central place to this concept of hybridity in the post-colonial discourse. To conclude, we can say that Bhabha talks about third space as the precondition for the articulation of cultural differences, and he has also referred to Wilson Harris in the extract which is prescribed for you, that this very third space creates a zone where the assimilation of contrariness is possible, and which also prepares the ground for the creation of occult instability, the same which we have discussed in the previous session with reference to French Fanon's concept of the zone of occult instability. So Bhabha talks about the third space as an alien territory, as a split space of enunciation in terms of conceptualization of an international culture. And or we can say that for Bhabha, this third space is a mode of articulation, a way of describing a productive and not merely reflective. And this space that engenders new possibility. I repeat, students, Bhabha looks at the third space as a mode of articulation, as a way of describing a productive, not merely reflective space that engenders new possibility. And to quote Bhabha, it is an interruptive, interrogative and enunciative space of new forms of cultural meaning and production, blurring the limitations of existing boundaries and calling into question established categorization of culture and identity. So according to Bhabha, this hybrid third space is an ambivalent site where cultural meaning and representations have no primordial unity or fixity. And this concept of third space is submitted as useful for analyzing the enunciation, transgression and subversion of the dualistic categories, going beyond the realm of colonial binary thinking and oppositional positioning. So in presenting this concept of third space, Bhabha looks for a sort of cosmopolitan culture, and toward the end of the extract, Bhabha says, I quote, "It is in this space that we will find those words with which we can speak of ourselves and others. And by exploring this hybridity, this third space, we elude the politics of polarity and emerge as the hour of ourselves. So, in this way, Bhabha presents this third space in as a site of ambivalence, to rethink or to re-evaluate the cultural identity in post-colonial world. Thank you.